What if I told you someone stole $3,400,000,000 by double-clicking? November 2021, criminal agents from the IRS surround a lakeside house in Gainesville, Georgia. A beautiful, quiet home worth nearly $1,000,000. When they go inside, they don't find a steel safe. They don't find a state-of-the-art server. They find none of that. They find a popcorn tin from Tito's tucked under a blanket in a bathroom closet. And inside it, a motherboard holding 50,000 bitcoins, at the time worth $3.4 billion. This is the case of Jimmy Zhang, the man behind the largest cryptocurrency theft in dark web history, and who, for nearly a decade, lived hidden in the most obvious place possible, in plain sight. Jimmy grew up in Cobb County, north of Atlanta, the son of Chinese immigrants. His childhood wasn't easy. His parents were always working, arguing, rarely present. Jimmy was overweight, autistic, and bullied every single day at school. The solution he found was the same as many others: the internet. There, no one judged his appearance. No one knew who he was. And he could communicate just by writing. Perfect. His intellectual ability was extraordinary. He taught himself programming before even starting college. With a scholarship, he got into computer engineering at the University of Georgia in Athens. And there, for the first time in his life, things started to improve. He made friends, went out, studied what he loved. In 2009, when Bitcoin was created, Jimmy was already there, among the first wave of curious minds exploring this new technology. He mined around 5,000 bitcoins on his laptop when the difficulty was practically zero. In 2011, Bitcoin was still worth mere cents, literally. Jimmy created BitPonzi.net, a betting scheme that was part Ponzi, which ran for a few months. Nothing original, almost a clone of another site, but enough to stack up some bitcoins while the price kept sinking. Meanwhile, a certain Ross Ulbricht was building something far more interesting on the dark web: Silk Road. If you don't know what Silk Road was, imagine an Amazon, but where the products were drugs, fake documents, and everything the law forbids. Payments were made in Bitcoin, access was through the Tor browser, and anonymity was total. For Jimmy, an introverted college student, autistic, and an occasional cocaine user, the site was practically a complete solution. He bought, he used it, and then, out of technical curiosity, he started digging around. That's when the thing happened that changed everything. Jimmy deposited Bitcoin into Silk Road, placed 2 orders, and then changed his mind. He wanted to withdraw his balance. He clicked the withdrawal button, then he clicked it again. Too fast. When he checked his wallet, the balance had been sent twice. He received double. Now there are 2 types of people in this situation. The kind that says, "This must be a mistake, I'll return it." And then there's Jimmy Zhang. He tested it again, deposited more, clicked 5 times quickly, multiplied it by 5. It worked. The vulnerability was simple. Silk Road's system processed withdrawals before verifying whether the balance was sufficient. Technically, it's called a race condition, a classic flaw in systems that process transactions in parallel without proper locking. Jimmy created multiple Silk Road accounts and repeated the process over and over. After 140 transactions, he had accumulated 50,000 bitcoins, at the time worth around $600,000. Ross Ulbricht himself discovered the breach and messaged Jimmy. Jimmy explained what he had done. Ulbricht, in a bizarre move, gave him 5,000 bitcoins as a reward for finding the vulnerability, and then fixed the system. After the heist, Jimmy used crypto mixers to scramble the origin of the coins and registered on Bitcoin Talk under a new alias, Loaded. His profile signature read, "Bitcoin multimillionaire, broker, and asset manager." He wasn't scared at all. The years went by. Bitcoin climbed from $12 to $3,300. What had been $600,000 turned into more than $150 million. And Jimmy had barely spent any of the stolen funds. Then came 2017, and with it, Bitcoin Cash, a hard fork. A new currency emerged, and anyone holding Bitcoin received the same amount in Bitcoin Cash. Jimmy, with 50,000 Bitcoins, got 50,000 Bitcoin Cash. He sold it all on an offshore exchange and reinvested in Bitcoin. Made another $11 million, on top of money that wasn't his. That's when life leveled up. Lamborghini, jet skis, a yacht, trips to NFL games, 5-star hotels for groups of friends, shopping sprees on Rodeo Drive where he'd hand each friend $10,000 to spend. He bought 80% of a real estate company in Memphis, became CEO of Jay-Z Capital LLC, and was once seen carrying a briefcase stuffed with $600,000 in cash because he wanted to impress a girl. It didn't work. And when people asked where the money came from, he'd say, "I mined Bitcoin early." And technically, that wasn't a lie. He just left out the part about the 50,000 stolen Bitcoins. In March 2019, Jimmy returned from a trip and found his house ransacked. Someone who clearly knew him had broken in and taken a briefcase with $400,000 in cash and another $200,000 in Bitcoin. And that's when Jimmy made the dumbest decision of the entire story. He called 911. Think about it. You've got $3 billion in stolen Bitcoin hidden in your house, and you call the police to complain that someone took $600,000 in dirty money. It's like a drug dealer reporting that someone stole his marijuana plants. An officer showed up, reviewed the cameras, saw a hooded man, and filed the case away. But the police report stayed in the system, and the IRS has a habit of paying attention to things like that. The IRS assigned 2 specialists, Trevor McClinton, a cybercrime expert, and Sean McGroder, founder of BlockTrace, a blockchain analytics company contracted by the government. The strategy was elegant. First, request Jimmy's browsing history from his internet provider. From that, they discovered his IP was constantly connecting to an exchange with KYC, Know Your Customer, meaning mandatory identity verification. In November 2020, Jimmy transferred the equivalent of just $800 in Bitcoin to that exchange. A tiny mistake. But McGroder traced that coin on the blockchain and found it originated from a wallet directly linked to Silk Road. That's when everything clicked. In May 2021, IRS agents called the local officer who had filed away the briefcase theft case and said, "You need to reopen this. We're on the trail of one of the biggest crypto thieves in history." They went to visit the lakeside house, said they were investigating the burglary. Jimmy not only let them in, he gave them a full tour. He even showed a wallet on his laptop holding $60 million in Bitcoin. The feds left, planned how to seize the laptop while it was open and unlocked, obtained a warrant, and came back. They took Jimmy out to the backyard. There, one of the agents revealed he was with the IRS and that they were investigating the Silk Road theft. Within seconds, the house was surrounded by armed agents. In the bathroom, under a blanket, inside a popcorn tin, a motherboard holding 50,676 Bitcoins. When Jimmy pulled off the Silk Road theft, Bitcoin was worth $12. The haul was about $600,000. By the time he was arrested in November 2021, with Bitcoin hitting record highs, those same coins were worth $3.36 billion, and he had barely spent any of it. It became the second largest cryptocurrency seizure in U.S. history. Jimmy cooperated with the IRS and handed over the wallet keys. While the case dragged on, he lost everything: the house, the friends, the luxuries. At one point, he was working as an Uber driver in his old Mercedes-Benz. In April 2023, he was sentenced to 1 year and 1 day in prison for wire fraud. He was released on April 3rd, 2024. The defense argued there were no real victims. After all, the money came from illegal activities. Technically, that wasn't wrong, but the government kept the coins anyway. The Jimmy John case raises a legitimate question. Was he a sophisticated criminal or just a 21-year-old who accidentally discovered a loophole in an illegal website and went too far? He didn't hack any servers. He didn't break encryption. He didn't deploy malware. He double-clicked and then sat on billions of dollars for nearly a decade until he called 911 to complain about $600,000. That's the ultimate irony of the story. He survived the dark web, the FBI, the IRS, tracing the blockchain, and was taken down by himself. The blockchain doesn't lie, and a police report lasts forever.